I knew in advance we'd be receiving at least one song for sure. That's what was announced officially, but a 2-for-1's a bit of a twist. Not that I'm complaining at all. And with Red, to my memory, we have not had a formatted publication as a dual release since, I forget the year, but the Gone era. With Losing Control and Still Alive, those initial singles introduced that album. Those were put out as back-to-back debuts, so to see that pattern revive for Rated R and maybe allowed to persist in the future, I mean, time will tell. I'd be fine if it were limited to just one track, but two's even better. Just to have anything from a group I've been following for 13 years now, in the case of Red, I'm easily game just for the opportunity alone. It excites me. And even better to enjoy it with you. As many of you know, as I've said many times in music coverage, maybe some of you remember the spiel with our first introduction to Rated R via Surrogates, which is still such a killer song. I love that one. Bit experimental from my familiarity with Red. Some new traits to, especially about synth application. That was very, well, I mean, they've done that before, but not to that level of dominance. It was something interesting, but definitely a mainstay rock Red feel. I greatly appreciate it, as I do generally music, as I've said many times. The first love in the artistic languages feel for me, and I cover a broad range here. This has been a long-standing art form that I've wanted to highlight for a while, and even more so specifically, as I've said to the credit of other artists as well. There are certain talents I've been following for years that, just in the development of idea of what music coverage would look like, and what I've now routinely or robustly satisfied to this point, even more so than I imagined, there are certain artists I've been pining away to spotlight given a new opportunity. And Red, to satisfy that particular aspiration, made the experience of Surrogates even better, just to have that opportunity and that dream fulfilled, and to experience it with you, to permit collaborative enjoyment. Again, I love that with music. I think it's better that way, that we enjoy it in company, whatever angle we take. Whether you happen to be familiarized Red fans as well, and I welcome your company as a fellow, I don't know if we have any official names or anything, just long-standing Red fans. Welcome here. But if any of you are coming as first initiate listeners to them, I am so excited for you to get a first introduction and to take it with me, as again, this is very much a fresh look. And to set a baseline again for ease of approach for you, think of Red as I would regard them as a top tier name in the Christian rock and metal sphere, specifically in the alternative hard rock, heavy metal space. They do have a bit of a variability in their application and expression. There is some creativity to their works that diversifies their feel from time to time, especially even just individually on album releases. There are tracks kind of float in different directions, but it's generally a mainstay rock and metal feel. Of course, the metal direction easily appeals, and then you make it Christian rock music even better. Again, Red's a group I grew up with in my teenage years, and I've been a persistent fan of theirs ever since. Every song they've put out, I've fallen in mad love with, and I hope for you it's going to be the same story if you happen to be an initiate listener of theirs. And as I said, I cannot wait for you to experience Red if this will be your first opportunity. Of course, long-standing fans, welcome aboard, but to provide an opportunity, admittedly I know a bit of an orthodox manner, but the best form I can muster, to provide a route for you to explore new talents, especially ones that deserve your attention who have not yet been introduced. It's an honor to both showcase Red and provide you that route of accessibility. And you're going to have two coming up, as I said, a dual release with Minus It All and Cold World. They're each going to be covered in their own video individually to just showcase the tracks in their own honor, but for sure both are coming. Just as Surrogates, was our first taste of where Rated R would go, and that track still, I just can't get over how good it is. I know many of you would share that same story. And Minus It All, just even promising on the name alone, but you bring in Red, I'm automatically teased. Excited. Let's welcome it together. Our second introduction to Rated R. First introduction to this song together, collaboratively. Again, I think mutual enjoyment sessions make the experience of music all the richer. And with Red, it's going to be a fun time. It was with Surrogates, and I hope for those of you who have not been introduced yet, I'm sure you're going to fall in love. Just on faith. I've never been let down. It's nice to hear the strings return. This is very strong with them. I greatly admire it. Orchestral, anything of that vein just immediately sparks an interest. Oh, this is beautiful. We're barely in. These unexpected introductions, this is the same with Surrogates. I'm loving where this album is going. It's so different, I'm feeling. Familiar cues on the instrumental side. I love how tragic it says on Mood. The vocals are beautiful. I don't expect anything less from Michael, but they're so pretty here. It's nice to have that mainstream Red return feel come back. Because Surrogates took us again on a bit of a different path. Generally. That flow back down to the G from the way really works. And that raspiness is just such a nice compliment. One of my favorite presences in the strings environment of rock application. Symphonic metal flair. Favorite subgenre of mine. So beautiful. The built constructions on the vocal layering, good choices here. I wondered if that would come back up. It's so satisfying for a finish. If you have not been introduced, Surrogates took us, if you took that journey, and I would recommend you do that. If you haven't heard that song yet, introduce yourself and maybe return. Surrogates is a bit more wild in its destination. It's unexpected. Different patterns and different traits. Again, with Red, variability. This is something that's quite common with them. But if I have to contrast the two works, they're equal in strength. Surrogates, well, minus, I should say it this way, Minus It All is just as good as Surrogates. Rated R sounds so promising. I cannot wait to hear Cold World. That'll be our third track out of 10, so just going to build the library out from here. So I regard these songs on equal footing of appreciation. But the points of contrast are incredibly unique. So again, for anybody who's approaching on a first initiation basis of entertaining Red, of course, if you're familiarized, you probably already know where I'm going with this, because you can see the contrast for yourself. Surrogates takes a fresher lens. Again, as I mentioned previously, that synth application to the level that it was present on that song is a bit different. I don't think that has come up in a previous appearance before, unless I'm forgetting maybe one track or another. It's more of a subtle, occasional add-on. It's never been stressed to that exact degree as a prominent agent of the piece. So I would regard Surrogates as a bit experimental by comparison to past numbers. But considering mainstream expectations, Minus It All floats immediately back into that expected Red pattern. And it's so beautiful. I mean, as I said, any track from them really is. Whether it be on the narrative delivery, and there's some good lines here. Dramatic. The tragic tone is gorgeous, especially married to such a beautiful instrumental to accompany. And as always with the vocals, Michael Barnes is just deeply satisfying on his expression. And the vocal drifts here on those chorus sections, the survive, the lowering from the A to the G with such, again, a raspiness intertwined. And that end scream, good conclusional element, great choice. You want to talk about the mainstream expectations of Red, that strings dominance. Anything of a symphonic, and Red is not, I wouldn't call them primarily symphonic metal. I would say it's an atmosphere that occasionally interweaves into some of their pieces, depending on the particular number or the album methodology. I'd say maybe, if you want a good example of this, I mean, it's appeared sporadically in past numbers since the beginning with them, but my favorite album from them, A Beauty and Rage. For example, that's just a full-on strings onslaught. With, of course, the rock root. But it's just so beautiful. Again, anything that brings in that orchestral vibe immediately connects. Many of you know that. I've had the privilege of looking at, or being introduced, in fact, to so many artists of the symphonic metal territory here, which I knew going in, of course, I'd love it, given some familiarized listens to me, including Red. But there's been so many artists of that particular metal space, and I'm generally open to really anything. Symphonic metal, immediate favorite. And to hear that come back with Minus It All in such a beautiful resurgence is absolutely a treat. Loved that. Love the presence on this number. It is just a gorgeous piece in full. Mainstream Red. That's the root here. I get such strong vibes back to the past of it, though, but it's such a fun, fresh release. I'm loving it already. Just like Surrogates. Immediate repeat listen. I'm sure rated R with the remainder of what we have yet to entertain. Next up of Cold World, and anything after, doors open as far as I'm concerned. I mean, as I said, long-standing dream in particular to cover Red since the beginning, really, and to make good on it with such promising numbers. I love it. And again, provide you the opportunity to not only enjoy it with me for the first initial impression, but even more specifically than that, for anybody who has not yet been introduced to Red. I really hope you'll like that. That gives you such a great introduction, again, if you've never experienced them before and you want to understand who maybe this group is. Following a number of years, I would recommend, again, going back into their back catalog, as I say, to the credit of many artists, and just listening to every piece they've ever put out. That's just, take it from me. But if you want a solid introduction that teaches you the main tools that Red oftentimes employs, this song is a great expression of that. Where Surrogates takes more of a fresh route, this goes back into the past a bit with, again, a fresh articulation. It's just so exquisite to humor. Love it. That string strength. Oh, it's immediately gelled. Love that number. I'd love to hear your opinion on it down below. And again, from whatever angle you approach you take, familiarized listener, new initiate, love to hear down below. As promised, door open, more to come. Cold World is next, again following the dual release pattern. How could I not look at that, especially coming off of Minus It All, but rated R is so promising. Believable when you consider Red. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity of humoring them again, especially given the strength of what we just witnessed. I'm sure this album's going to be a top favorite for me. For sure. I'm just making that prediction right now. I mean, we still have 7 or 8 tracks to go in terms of witness together, but I'm loving what I'm loving the appetizer so far. I'm just ready to dig in deeper. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.